Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Philip coming to you from Chiang Mai, northern Thailand in the A to Z Love Yourself series, and today we're on O, which stands for observation. So we need to understand what observation is, and then we will understand self-observation. Now, in fact, observation actually goes hand in hand with awareness, and awareness kicked off our series quite a while back. If you didn't watch the awareness video, you can always go back to it, you can watch the whole lot. Now let me just read from my, and I've been writing a little ebook, my A to Z ebook, so do look out for that as well if you like these little videos. Self-observation goes hand in hand with self-awareness. To grasp these concepts, let's first look at awareness and observation. Now, I like to think of awareness as a state of mind, a being. Now, awareness of mind means the mind is open for incoming information, and basically our life is a constant flow of information in or out, and the mind is central to all of that. So awareness is a state of mind. Now observation is the activity of the mind. Now when we're observing the outside world, because that's what it is, and self-observation is going inside, but when we're observing the outside world, primarily we use our five senses. So we see things, we hear things, we taste things, smell things, touch things, feel things, and so on. And observing it requires an open mind, which means that our mind must be aware and ready for receiving. Now, I'll stop talking for a few seconds, see what you can hear. They've all gone quiet. There's a lot of bird activity going on around me, so I could sit here and all the time that I'm observing the sounds coming into me, then I'm tuned in to the bird noise and the activity. That's observation. The moment that I start thinking about something or I become preoccupied or distracted, I've stopped observing the bird noise, or I've stopped seeing the nature. A good example is if you're driving in a car or something and suddenly you've arrived at your destination and you couldn't remember turning this bend or that bend or whatever because you were preoccupied, you were distracted. So you were still doing the driving subconsciously because you've done it so many times. So observation is very much to do with what's going on right now and what's coming in through your sensory organs. Now, when we observe the world, we're using our senses. But when we observe ourselves, when we're conducting self-observation, we want to know what's happening basically inside our skin. So if you suddenly realise you've got a stomachache, you've observed that you've got a stomachache. And pain is easy to observe and see and notice because there it is. But much more important for our work is to learn how to observe what's going on in your mind. And interestingly, you have to use your own mind to observe what's going on in your own mind, which begs a few questions about actually whose mind it is and who are you and all that, but that's for another day. So I like to think about who's in charge of your fate, because I like acronyms. You know what FATE stands for? Who's in charge of your fate? Your fate are your feelings, your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions. So if you get angry, are you noticing that you're angry, or are you too busy being angry and shouting at whoever's you think is causing your upset? Now, if you can notice that you're being angry, or you can notice that you feel envious of somebody, or you notice that you're feeling resentful, what's happening is this noticing is then opens up. What's happened is, with the noticing, your mind has become aware, self-aware, aware of what's inside itself. So we'll stick with anger because it's a good example, and most people get angry from time to time. Some people really suffer from anger and rage and so on, and it's tormenting. All of them are. So if you notice that you're angry, then you've become self-aware of the anger inside your mind. Now, if you start to watch it and observe it as if it's somebody else being angry, as if you're watching either around you or in some movie or something, so you've noticed your anger, and this is a brilliant thing to do if you've noticed it, then if you start to observe it, well, it goes, because the anger loses its energy. So the point about self-observation is to look inside you. Okay, it's easy to know when you've got a stomachache or whatever, but can you teach yourself to observe your own feelings, your own thoughts and your own emotions? And can you observe your own actions? Because people may do something and you think they've hurt you and you instantly react. Now, if you're not observing, if you're not aware, you will react and you're in the reaction. It's as if you are caught up in a movie. But when you notice what your action is, when you notice your reaction, then you can observe. And from this observing process, you can learn. And this is the greatest learning tool, is observing with awareness. Now, there's a little phrase I used to teach my students this: observe others and learn about yourself. Observe yourself and learn about others. Because we're mostly pretty similar, we're human beings. Okay, we have our own individual traits and experiences and life journey, but we are human beings. We have our subconscious mind, we have consciousness, we have those same characteristics, especially in the culture that you grew up in. So I think the key with observation is yes, observe the world out there and you learn more for yourself, but observe yourself and you learn more about the world, because when you can observe yourself, you can see how you get angry. Because anybody can see somebody else being angry, but can you see when you're being angry? Can you see when you're being resentful, when you're hating somebody? Can you see that? Because if you can't see it, the emotion of it all hijacks you and you are stuck in that negative energy force because you can't see it. But the moment you start to notice and then observe the anger, the resentment, the hatred, the whatever it is inside you, the greed, everything, all those negative emotions, the moment you start to notice them, and then when you practice observing what you've just noticed, so you stay in that frame of consciousness, that's when you start to did you notice that? We'll wait for it again. No. So that's the thing, isn't it? Notice goes, when you notice it, that suddenly something's coming onto your screen of consciousness, and now if you want it to stay there, you observe. And I can tell you that if you practice observing with awareness, because you can only observe with awareness, and when you're aware you can observe, and when you want to observe you have to first be aware. So you have to get rid of distractions and you have to stop being preoccupied. But of course the thoughts will continue coming through your mind, but when you see those thoughts, you're observing yourself. And the more you practice this, the less often you're going to be angry. And at some point, anger will start to disappear from your life. And I use anger as a symbol of all the other negative emotions. So, I think that will do for now. Learn to observe yourself, and you learn about others. Learn to observe others. Observe them, don't judge them, and learn about yourself. Yeah, that's worth actually saying, just quickly. If you observe somebody in action and then you start judging that they're a bad person, they're this and that, and you don't like them, blah, 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 you've stopped observing and moved into judging. To be observing, you have to forget the judgment. You can do all that later. And in fact, if you observe people and see what's going on, and then at the end you reflect upon it, now you can make sense of it. So what you're doing with the observing is you're teaching yourself to get away from this negative judgment all the time. Because when you negatively judge somebody else, you carry a negative energy. Thank you very much for listening. I'll be back next time with P. We're gradually making our way through this A to Z. I have been writing it as a little mini ebook, the A to Z. So if you like this series, do look out for that. And meanwhile, I bid you a cracking day and get practicing the art of observation and self-observation with an open mind. Take care. Bye bye.